It's Tuesday, June 16th, and this is now on HNN.
This was a spring break trip that got canceled.
In a major milestone for the state, inter-island travel without a mandatory quarantine begins.
The state will be ultimately dismissing the charges.
A self-proclaimed cult member who planned to settle down in Hawaii with his followers is back on the mainland after being arrested for breaking quarantine rules.
I think that we have to make a change in this country.
Anger, protests, and a demand for change after another black man dies in police custody. I'm Michael George with the new police reforms being passed across the country.
We just had to make the move quickly.
More people say they're looking to move their family from the city to the suburbs. I'm Laura Podesta, and I'll tell you why.
Plus, the absolutely cutest thing you'll see all day, senior citizens on a slip and slide. Coming up on This Is Now.
Aloha and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for watching. This is Now. The time is 12:01 on this Tuesday. We have a lot of news to cover today, but we want to start first with those numbers from the State Health Department. There are 4 new COVID-19 cases today. We're told all patients here on Oahu.
And we'll send out a digital alert about that in just a moment. We also want to talk about, after 2.5 months of mostly empty airports, the state is ending that inter-island quarantine procedures at those airports. Casey Lund was just there and filed this report.
Well, the procedures that were put in place months ago for essential workers as they travel inter-island really haven't changed all that much now that the quarantine has been lifted. The only thing that's different is this inter-island declaration form, which does have some additional information and questions from the Department of Health. But all the forms and standards and procedures aside, today was really about families reconnecting after spending months apart. What are you looking forward to?
Seeing my beautiful 10 grandchildren. You know, spend time with the family, just to get off Honolulu because of what we're going through with the COVID-19. I've been furloughed from work, and I've been talking to my grandkids every day on the phone. That's the way of staying in touch. But now I get to go over there and actually get to see their smiles, and hug them, and spend time with them. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Today is a big step forward for Hawaii. For the state, it's an opportunity for the Departments of Health and Transportation to gauge how these new screening procedures will work. For the thousands of families in Hawaii who have had their lives seriously impacted by COVID-19, it's a step towards normalcy. This morning, Wendy May waved goodbye to her boys as they approached TSA.
This was a spring break trip that got canceled when they first shut the state down. So the boys have been waiting, and this is the first day they could all fly. So they all travel up every year to visit friends on the Big Island that they all grew up with together. Today's a big day. They've been waiting for this day.
UH professor in the School of Travel Industry Management, Jerry Agrusa, says the economic activity spurred from the quarantine being lifted will be relatively minor, but that we should look at this step as a test run, as many in the tourism industry prepare for the eventual return of out-of-state visitors.
This will give the hotels a chance to go through the steps. What are the standard operational procedures now for the hotels and the restaurants with serving folks? The good thing is that these folks, if we do have a lapse, the majority of the folks that are coming from Hawaii are probably not COVID positive. We just don't have that many folks with it.
Airlines and DOT officials agree that you don't really have to get here to the airport a whole lot earlier than the standard 90 minutes before your departure time. It really just depends on how much time you want to spend at the gate. It formally takes a few minutes to fill out, but don't forget to wear your mask. Reporting at the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, I'm Casey Lund, Hawaii News Now.
People who are thinking that Hawaii, they can come here and just flaunt themselves going out and breaking the quarantine. That's not the way it's going to work over here.
After spending 4 nights in a Hilo jail, a self-professed cult leader who calls himself God is sent back to the mainland, along with 20 others from his group. The Carbonation first made headlines last week for violating quarantine. Mahealani Richardson has more on what unfolded yesterday.
I do understand, sir.
Carbonation leader Eligio Bishop pleaded no contest and was sentenced to 90 days in jail. But that sentence was suspended since he agreed to leave the islands.
He'll leave from custody to the airport. He'll have people that will be making sure he gets on the plane, law enforcement, and he'll be flying to the mainland.
Hawaii News Now was at Hilo Airport as Bishop, along with Dedrick Johnson and Jacob Benton, arrived for their flight.
Hawaii takes this very serious. So their vacation here, they spent more time in jail than they did outside of jail.
Prosecutors also agreed to drop the charges against the 20 other defendants.
So, pursuant to him taking a plea and taking responsibility, the state will be ultimately dismissing the charges against all of his friends that got swept up along with him.
The 21 quarantine violators tested negative for COVID, according to health officials, and the governor agreed that getting them out of Hawaii was better for the state.
If they want to leave our community, it's better for us to assist in that action rather than have them be here, have them be in our correctional facility or a jail.
On Friday, the Visitor Aloha Society of Hawaii said the group indicated they wanted to live in Hawaii, but apparently that's changed after racial threats online.
I spoke with Kendra, she's known as Mama Sheba, and she said they don't feel safe, they want out now.
Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
VASH, the Visitor Aloha Society of Hawaii, tells us 3 of the leaders of the group were sent home yesterday. All the others will go back today. The total cost is unclear because VASH negotiates with the airlines, but the funding comes from tourism taxes. Since April 6th, the nonprofit has sent back 87 people who chose to return home.
Now more on that uptick in cases we're following. The state says one of the newest patients is a resident at Halenani, the state's largest nursing home in Makiki. State Health Director Bruce Anderson says this is the first case of a nursing facility resident testing positive. He says the resident recently transferred to Halenani, and it's still unclear how the patient became exposed. Anderson says a Halenani employee tested positive for the virus last week, and all staff and residents were tested. He says the infected resident tested negative for the virus then, but then developed symptoms and was taken to the hospital where another test gave a positive result.
The facility has implemented extensive infection control measures in response to the initial case. They are actively monitoring and testing all staff and residents in the facility. There is a low level of COVID-19 still circulating in our community. It's not gone. It never will be gone. We just need to be vigilant about following up and of course, isolating cases.
Anderson says the mainland has hundreds of cases every day tied to nursing homes, so he says the local facility's strict procedures are helping prevent the spread of the virus.
Here's some promising news. Researchers in England say they may have found a drug that can help the sickest of coronavirus patients. They say the low-cost steroid called dexamethasone can reduce deaths by up to 1/3 for patients on ventilators. Initial results show that the drug did not have much of an effect on less ill patients. A setback for New Zealand. The country says it is no longer coronavirus free. Officials say 2 women who flew from London tested positive. They were allowed to come back and break the quarantine because they came to see a dying parent. The women are now in isolation. Officials are testing those who may have come in contact with them. Prior to this, New Zealand had not seen a new case for more than 3 weeks.
Authorities in Beijing have issued a soft lockdown for the entire city after a new outbreak was discovered. Ivan Watson has more.
The situation in the Chinese capital is very dire. Those are the words of a Chinese government official speaking at a late-night press briefing on Tuesday, in which authorities announced that they would be raising the coronavirus alert level from 3 to 2. And that's in response to the discovery of a new cluster of locally transmitted infections. More than 100 cases discovered in a period of just 5 days. It's all the more striking when you consider that less than 2 weeks ago, Beijing had actually been lowering its coronavirus alert levels. Now, a lot of the new cases have been traced back to this enormous wholesale food market called Shinfadi, which is located in the south of the city. As a result, the authorities have had to shut this market, which supplies more than 70% of the fresh produce that feeds Beijing. They've also closed several other food markets, and they've imposed a very strict lockdown on a number of residential compounds located around these food markets. Some of the new measures that were announced on Tuesday night sound a lot like a soft lockdown of the entire city of Beijing and its population of more than 20 million people. All schools are being closed, and all non-essential travel outside of Beijing is being strongly discouraged. Despite this and a massive coronavirus testing spree and contact tracing of an estimated 200,000 people believed to have visited the main food market in the last 2 weeks, the new cases of coronavirus emanating from Beijing have spread to at least 3 other Chinese provinces. Ivan Watson, CNN.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is heading to Hawaii today to meet with Chinese government officials at Hickam Air Force Base. He's expected to be on the ground here for about 24 hours. The meetings come as tensions between the U.S. and China escalate amid the pandemic.
After weeks of escalating tension, today North Korea took another step in cutting ties with South Korea. Ian Lee reports.
The Inter-Korean Liaison Office was built to forge closer ties between North and South Korea. That was 2018. Now that building is up in smoke, much like North-South relations. The latest rise in escalation started when North Korean defectors sent leaflets across the border criticizing Kim Jong-un's regime. The North retaliated with demonstrations and cutting communications with the South. Tuesday, North Korean state TV called the defectors human scum and said the liaison office was destroyed in a terrific explosion. Edward Howell of Oxford University believes the North's recent actions may also be diverting attention from domestic issues.
We know that over the past few months, Kim Jong-un's health has been put into question. We know that despite North Korea saying that it's COVID-free, it always has been COVID-free, we know that these claims are being increasingly disputed. And we also know that North Korea's economy is taking a severe toll.
North Korea, he says, is also frustrated over the lack of progress following 3 high-profile meetings between Kim and President Trump.
Sanctions still continue. US-South Korean military exercises continue. According to North Korea, the so-called US hostile policy is still there. And South Korea hasn't done anything to try and mediate.
Without any diplomatic movement, experts fear a further escalation, including new North Korean missile tests. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
A deadly crash caused a traffic mess on the H1 freeway in Kapolei this morning. Lacey Denise has the details.
An investigation is underway into a fatal crash that happened early this morning in West Oahu. Just before 5 a.m., Honolulu police shut down the H1 freeway in both directions, causing traffic to back up for miles. According to police, a 46-year-old man was driving in the eastbound direction of the freeway when he crashed into another vehicle. The 46-year-old driver then lost control and crashed into the median, ejecting him into the westbound lanes of the H1, where police say he was hit by multiple vehicles. A bystander tried to help the driver but was struck by another vehicle. That vehicle then fled the scene. The bystander was taken to the hospital in serious condition, but the 46-year-old male driver was pronounced dead at the scene. The H1 was reopened in both directions just before 8:30 a.m. HPD says it does not appear that speed, drugs, or alcohol were factors in this crash.
We're seeing changes to the way policing is done in America. This comes after weeks of protests. We got Michael George in New York, where the police commissioner there just disbanded the department's anti-crime unit.
As protesters in Atlanta demanded change in the wake of the deadly police shooting of Rayshard Brooks, Atlanta's Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms announced police reforms, saying she relates personally to Brooks' death.
I've had family members in that position. They get locked up on the wrong day for something stupid.
The mayor's order requires officers to de-escalate situations first. They're also duty-bound to intervene if they see another officer using excessive force. Prosecutors are weighing charges against officers Garrett Rolfe and Devin Brosnan. When they tried to handcuff Brooks after he failed a sobriety test, he wrestled with the officers, grabbed one of their tasers, and ran. Officer Rolfe chased Brooks, who fired his taser. Rolfe fired his gun.
I think that we have to make a change in this country.
Rolfe was fired after the incident. His disciplinary history shows he'd used his firearm twice before Friday's shooting. One of those cases resulted in a written reprimand. The recent deaths of black men in police custody and the protests that have followed are impacting policing across the United States. Here in New York City, the commissioner announced he's disbanding the department's plainclothes anti-crime unit.
This is a relationship between the police and the community. And when one party to a relationship says the relationship isn't working, then it's not working.
On Tuesday, the FBI also announced charges in the death of federal officer Patrick Underwood, who was shot during protests in Oakland last month. Stephen Carrillo and Robert Justice are facing murder and other charges. A second security guard was injured in the attack.
There is no evidence that these men had any intention to join the demonstration in Oakland. They came to Oakland to kill cops.
Officials believe both men have ties to an anti-government extremist group looking to exploit peaceful demonstrations. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
The state is facing another lawsuit over the visitor quarantine. A group of full-time and part-time residents argue that it's unconstitutional and violates the First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendments. Last week, business owners and residents associated with the group For Our Rights filed a similar suit. They'll have an injunction hearing in federal court on June 26th. The coronavirus has some people rethinking their living arrangements. Laura Podesta spoke to some people who made the decision to flee busy cities to buy a home in the suburbs amid the pandemic.
The Bell family loves all the extra space they now have in the suburbs.
When we realized, like, oh wow, we have to hunker down and really stay further away from people, we realized apartment living was probably not the best way to do that.
It was by video call that Ingrid Bell and her husband agreed to purchase this house in southwestern Connecticut in April, moving from their apartment in New York City to a larger, greener space.
We just had to make the move quickly.
Stephanie and Shavane Roberts say the pandemic and economic uncertainty sped up a planned move from Brooklyn to New Jersey so they could spend less and have more peace of mind.
A new environment, and it's not so populated.
In a recent Harris poll, 39% of people in urban areas said they were considering leaving for a less populated part of the country.
I am busier than I've ever been in real estate.
Real estate broker Robin Kensell uses FaceTime to conduct business. She says many clients are able to move quickly because more companies are allowing employees to work from home.
This is really intense for people. It's intense usually, but it's got that added layer of, world anxiety.
The Bells say they'll miss parts of city living.
The energy and the ability to, on a whim, do so many amazing different things.
But they say this was the right move at the right time for their family. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
All right, of course, folks, and economists here worried about the exodus of population because of the loss of tourism jobs and service industry work. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. But you know what? As far as city life goes, I'm a city boy. I know you grew up in the country.
I'm a townie for sure.
Yeah, we've changed a little bit since our upbringing, but
yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people too are leaving because the cost of living here. You're already in a financial hardship. Probably going to move somewhere cheaper, get a bigger house for your family.
Totally. A few years back, that Vegas move, everyone was moving to Vegas.
Yep.
All right, guys, we're going to take you outside right now where the time is now 12:18 and the temperature is 80 degrees. Guy Hoggy has an update on our weather.
How's it on this Tuesday? We have typical trade wind weather conditions in that it's a little cloudy, a little damp this morning. Lots of sunshine expected by midday, if not a little bit later. And you can see those showers mainly affecting the windward sides, and there's some high clouds passing by as well, but those high clouds do not bring us any rain at all. And those showers will be limited because they're moving along at a good clip by these breezy trade winds. Of course, that means lower humidity levels and comfortable conditions, except for over in Kona, where they got sticky Kona winds with higher humidity levels there. Otherwise, we're going to have a typical trade wind weather day. Breezy trade winds, a few windward and Mocha showers coming through from time to time. Lots of leeward sunshine. High temperatures running into the upper 80s. Now, as far as the surf, we are expecting small pulses coming into south and north shores. Not all that big, but at least there's going to be some rideable waves out there. UV index is at 10 along the beaches, and that's very, very high. So get ready for a high burn level. We've got the temperatures running into the upper 80s for the next several days, and those breezy winds will continue at least until Saturday. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
Thank you so much, Guy. Looking forward to the weekend already. Let's get to what's going on from the feeds. Let's see what the internet is talking about right now. Here's a story I found, and it involves one of my favorite icons, Dolly Parton.
Of course.
There's actually a move and a push to have her replace some of those Confederate statues that are coming down. The one in Tennessee is Nathan Bedford Forrest, who obviously has a controversial history. Tennesseans are taking to change.org for this petition. They've collected more than 6,000 signatures already. Organizers of the petition say Dolly's got a good heart, giving spirit. She's done so much for the state, and she has that Learn to Read program with her Dollywood Foundation. She's just a great person.
Yeah,
and,
she's sent so many kids to college,
Yeah.
too. Yeah, she does a lot for the community.
And she used to live here. Did you know that?
Yeah, you told me.
Oh, I did tell you. Oh, did I tell you that?
A while ago.
Yeah. And she had a restaurant here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, we did do a little segment on that. Oh, man, time flies here at This Is Now. But.
And this story's for Jonathan as well. So Hello
Kitty
Kitty is getting a new boss. So the founder and CEO of Sanrio, Shintaro Tsuji, he's retiring after 60 years. He will remain chairman of the company, but his grandson will take over. So Sanrio was one of the first Japanese companies that saw the potential in character licensing. And of course, Hello Kitty was by far its most popular and profitable creation.
I just watched that Netflix documentary, The Toys That Made Us.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that advertisement?
Not yet.
It's just a flashback look at all the toys that we grew up with. Hello Kitty was one of them. They actually did an interview with a professor here that did a whole research study on whether or not Hello Kitty was a boy or a girl.
Ah.
Yes. So.
Why? I mean,
Yeah, I know. It was confusing.
It has a bow.
Yeah, you would think so, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But check it out. I'm not going to give away the whole study. It's just a little local tie. If you watch that documentary, you can check it out yourself. All right, we got some news, some updates on some reopenings here at home.
Yep.
I haven't been here in a while.
Yeah, the Waikiki Aquarium is set to reopen in 2 weeks, but before the general public returns on June 29th, the aquarium is offering free visits to healthcare workers and their family members from June 22nd to the 28th. Now, of course, all visitors will be required to wear a face mask.
Yeah, the zoo opened up last week, and I heard they had some pretty good attendance, and they're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, but you can go there as well starting tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure people are just dying to get outside.
I know, right? Me too. I've been in the digital center too long. All right, this is what we've been waiting for, Ashley.
I can't
We
wait.
promised this cutest video of the day. Here we go. Some good news now. What's going on? Isn't it adorable?
It's a slip and slide for seniors on Kauai. So the Regency at Puakea threw a party called Slide Into Summer Fun with rubber ducky rides, food, and games. Now, it was a nice little break from all the bad news lately to make folks smile in Puhi. And as you can see, they loved it and we're having a blast.
When was the last time you were on a slip and slide?
Oh, gosh.
It's been a while.
A couple years ago, I would say.
Yeah, it was always fun. We'd always take my pool cover growing up.
Yeah.
And make that into our slip and slide. All right, guys. We have some big news here at This Is Now.
We do.
We're coming to TV!
Yes.
Yes.
June 22nd, that's
Monday.
We'll be launching This Is Now on K-Channel at noon, and we'll be on TV at noon on weekdays.
Yeah, that's right after the Tamron Hall show, which follows the Today Show lineup. Really excited about it. We never thought when we started this that would go that far, but we've enjoyed bringing you our digital audience, the news every day, and now we're bringing it to a whole new audience. So excited about that.
Yes.
You guys, that's going to do it for this Tuesday edition of This Is Now. There's a press conference with Mayor Caldwell coming up this afternoon. We'll let you know about it on a digital push. Have a good night. Good day.